Hello, Internet. This is my sister, Anna.
This is my brother, Josh.
And you are listening to the ADHD Fitness Podcast.
All right, so today's subject is nutrition.
Nutrition.
Yes.
Incredibly important.
Yeah, probably the most important.
Yeah. So, one thing that I wanted to just talk about right away. Well, first of all, talking about ADHD and how all these things work. I was reading a study in the Journal of American Psychology that took a look at non-pharmaceutical interventions for ADHD.
Yes.
And it was actually a meta-analysis, which if you don't know what that is, it's a study of studies. Basically where they take a whole bunch of like randomized control trials and they cross-reference all of the data and try to come to like a broader conclusion across multiple different studies.
Yep.
So they had two different categories that they were looking at in non-pharmaceutical intervention. One was behavioral, which is like different strategies like scheduling and like different organizational strategies and those kinds of things.
I need to work on, for sure.
And the other one was dietary.
Yep.
Now, can you guess which one showed an improvement in ADHD symptoms?
Probably the dietary, I would imagine.
Exactly.
It has to work from the inside out.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people would probably think that it was the other way around.
Yeah.
They would probably think like, well, you know, if you have a problem with organization and scheduling and time management, then you should use more tools to manage those things, which can help, but the data was inconclusive. Like it showed in the behavioral aspect of it, it showed that some people responded to certain strategies, other people responded to other strategies, and there was nothing that was universal in that department.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that study showed a measurable improvement in executive functioning, and that was removing food coloring from the diet, which is very interesting. Artificial food coloring causes like a decrease in executive function.
Yeah.
And the other thing was an inclusion of healthy fats, and I think in those studies they used like omega-3 supplements.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting.
To kind of control it, so they had these people take like a certain like milligram of omega-3s, and then that actually showed a measured improvement.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because you know, and I'm struggling with inflammation. So we just ended our bulk. We'll talk about that more in detail later. But I started with kind of semi-clean bulk, like maybe 80-20, 80% clean. You know.
Yeah, trying.
And as we got closer to the holidays, it just devolved. And so I've been eating lots of garbage lately, and the problem with that is inflammation. There's certain things when you eat a lot of sugar, a lot of processed carbs and things like that, and alcohol and all that. Those are the most inflammatory things you can put in your body.
Yeah.
And it causes a systemic response that because I deal with arthritis, I deal with psoriasis, I have all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And also it affects mental health, like depression and things like that.
Yeah.
In fact, when I first went to the rheumatologist, they said, there were pamphlets like for like, you know, are you experiencing anxiety and depression? Talk to your rheumatologist. I'm like, why is that at the arthritis doctor?
Yeah.
But it clicked. It's like, oh, it's because inflammation affects we've talked about this before. The brain is part of the body.
It's a body part.
Duh.
Mental health is not separate from physical health.
Exactly.
At all.
Yeah.
Not even remotely different. It's not different. They're the same thing.
Yeah. And so it jives when you're talking about omega-3s, because one of the most anti-inflammatory things you can eat are the healthy fats like omega-3s. Of course. Yeah.
So like for the absolute beginner, I just kind of want to break it down a little bit as far as how all this crap works. Because I feel like, you know, if you're not familiar with any of this at all, I feel like already some of this has gone over your head.
Yeah.
Because you're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, sure.
So let's just start with, what is a calorie?
Okay. Josh, a calorie is I feel like I'm being quizzed. A calorie is basically a unit of measurement. It's a measurement of heat energy.
Yes.
How much energy is created when you boil so much water.
Yeah.
So I forget the exact measurements.
I think it's the amount of energy to raise 1 ounce of water by 1 degree.
There you go.
I think it's something like that.
Yeah. But it's a measurement of energy, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, energy cannot be created or destroyed, only converted back and forth into matter.
Okay, yeah.
So
science.
Right.
Yeah.
E equals MC squared. We all know this. Or
do we though?
We should know this.
we know that Einstein said that. But okay, yes, go ahead.
Yes, energy is the base for all the particles. So all of the particles that are in your body are atoms, and they're made up of electrons and protons and neutrons. Those are energy particles, which form into matter particles. Okay, and this is happening in your digestive system. You're transferring energy into matter and matter into energy.
That's what your metabolism is.
It's almost miraculous when you think about it. Like, that's crazy that's happening. But if you consume too much energy, it has nowhere to go, and then your body converts it into matter. Now, it can convert it into any tissue that's within your body, but if you're in excess and there's not muscle building signaling happening through like weightlifting, it's almost always going to go to your fat tissue.
Yes, yeah.
That's how it works.
And I use the analogy, one of our other talks was if you have a big pile of bricks, right? And you have construction workers putting those bricks together. So the bricks are the calories and the energy, the food.
Yeah.
And then you have to tell the workers how to put it together. Like you have to give them a plan, and that's where weightlifting comes in.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're just trying to maintain, you're not trying to lose weight or gain weight, there's going to be a rough, like, certain caloric number that is your maintenance calories. You should eat about this many calories per day.
Yes.
And for me right now, I think it's somewhere around 2,700 to 2,800 calories per day is around my maintenance.
Okay.
So.
Now we should also say that, like, because the FDA or whatever, they use a standard of 2,000 calories a day. That's an average across the board.
That's actually pretty low.
Yeah, that's pretty low. And you're a male. I don't know if people know that, but
I'm a man.
You're a dude.
I'm a male.
And
I'm a he.
He, him pronouns, right? He has also worked on increasing his metabolism and his resting. Oh shoot, I forgot the terminology now.
Resting metabolic rate.
That's the one. Basal metabolic rate. That's the one.
Basal metabolic rate.
But you've worked to increase that by building more muscle mass, because more muscle uses calories just sitting there.
Yes, more muscle uses more calories that are. It increases your energy expenditure in your basal metabolic rate. That's true. It also repartitions calories. So you eat calories. If you have a consistent muscle building signal happening, it's going to tell your body to use more of those calories for muscle. So there's more than one mechanism that's happening that causes you to it retrains your body how to use calories.
Yes.
So calories is one of the most important things that you need to understand for weight loss, because calories in, calories out is true. Some people will debate that.
And I know, yeah. But I was going to say that if nothing else, if people take nothing away from that, it's that. It's the law of is that the third law of thermodynamics?
I don't know how many laws there are.
Whatever. It's a thing. It is true. It is math.
Yeah.
So if you take nothing else away from this talk, keeping track of your calories and trying to, balance your energy, how much you're burning versus how much you're taking in, that will work. I've done that very successfully. At my heaviest, I was about 175 pounds, and one of the biggest things was I became militant about counting my calories. So, that's sort of the base level, like, if nothing else.
So one thing that I want to point out about this whole conversation is that a lot of people will kind of think of it as almost just like depositing and withdrawing from a bank account. Like, you put this many calories in and this many calories come out, and therefore that should equal weight loss. Well, there's a lot of different factors that come into play. There's, what we just talked about with muscle building signaling totally changes how your body uses calories. And then there's also the thermic effect of food.
Yes.
Which different types of nutrients will increase your energy expenditure. Protein actually increases your energy expenditure, and fats and carbs really don't.
Now, is that because your body takes more energy just to digest and metabolize that?
Exactly, yeah.
So your body's working harder just to digest protein and fiber and things.
Fiber's the other one.
Yeah.
Fiber has a higher thermic effect. What was the other thing? There's movement. the more you move, the more calories you burn,
yes.
That's another tricky one because they talk about the eat less and move more. Mm-hmm. It doesn't always work because your body, your metabolism will compensate for your activity. Mm-hmm. So the more that the more you run, like let's say you go running, you're trying to lose weight. If you eat less and move more and eat less and move more and eat less and move more, and you keep going down that path, your body is going to try to figure out how to keep you from starving to death.
Yeah, your body wants to reserve as much as possible.
It wants to, yeah, exactly. So there's all these different factors that come into play.
There's, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I know with ADHD, we tend to lose our train of thought. So
it's okay.
Okay. That's, we have a teenaged nephew.
Yeah.
He's also into weightlifting and all that kind of good stuff. And he's saying that he wants to start losing some body fat. He's just going to add more cardio. That's all he's going to do different. And I was like, well, that's good. Except understand that if you go out, you start running more. Okay?
Yeah.
Your body is going to naturally compensate by giving you hunger signals. Like you're going to be ravenously hungry. I've experienced it.
Yeah.
So if you don't also at least keep track somewhat of your calories in, you're going to end up overeating, and you're going to be like. That's why you see a lot of runners who are kind of skinny fat.
Yeah. Well, like your body is going to pare down muscle.
Yeah.
It kind of like. Well, this is metabolically active, so in order to reduce our metabolic rate, we need to get rid of some muscle mass in order to conserve energy. Your body already has that mechanism built in.
Yeah.
So if you just run and you don't lift, you're going to end up losing muscle, gaining fat, and then you kind of are stuck there. Yeah. Where, like, if you just lose weight, you're just essentially losing the same amount of fat and the same amount of muscle together. So it's kind of like, and it's actually even possible to lose more muscle than fat. And if you're doing like body fat scans or whatever, you're testing your body fat.
Yeah.
It's possible to lose weight and have your body fat percentage go up. And so you're actually fatter now, even though you weigh less, you're just smaller.
Right. Now, what a lot of, I don't even know what to say, like people who are anti-science, I guess, but the fat acceptance people. I'm sorry. I hate to keep harping on them. I don't mean to be. I'm really a very nice, empathetic person.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of misinformation in that community, and
it's so bad.
And so one of the things they say,
we can do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, I think we do need to at some point. And now I'm going to lose my train of thought. What were you just talking about?
We're talking about calories and activity and the thermic effect of food and running.
Yes, and you can actually get fatter by, you can your body fat percentage can go up. So that's what they'll harp on things like that, where it's like, well, it doesn't matter how much you exercise or how much you count your calories, and that's really not the case. They're just only looking at like half the picture.
Yeah. Exactly,
and
because that's a half truth. They only got half the equation. It's like, well, if you eat less and move more, then your metabolism will crash. So therefore, diet and exercise is not effective.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, that's you missed like half the information.
Yeah,
and coming to that conclusion, there are ways to increase your metabolic rate, and there are ways to prevent your metabolism from crashing. And I think especially in America, we have this weird mentality of like, if some is good, then more must be better.
Right.
We have a lot of that. And this pervades into like fitness and people trying to lose weight. And like people think that like, well, if I lose weight by eating less, then if I eat even less than that, then that's going to be more effective. But like,
which might be true in the short term.
Yeah. You get to a certain point where your body is going to interpret that as you're starving, like you're unsuccessful as far as obtaining food, so like we're going to starve to death.
Yeah.
And so your body is going to counteract that. And there's, now I just lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry. I didn't even interrupt you that time.
But the thing that I was getting at is that like there's all these different ways of dieting and exercising in an effective manner that's going to be favorable towards having that healthy, like fast metabolism and all of these things.
Right.
So before we get into any of that, let's talk about macros and micronutrients.
Yeah.
Protein, fats, and carbs, and your different micronutrients. Like, what is all of that?
Okay. Yeah, so macronutrients. So essentially, you have three main things that food consists of, and that is protein, fat, and carbohydrates. Protein is the building blocks of your muscles. It can also be used for energy. Fat is is also used for energy, and it can be stored as energy, right?
Yeah.
And then carbohydrates are also typically used as energy. Now, there's different types of carbs, there's different types of fats.
Right. Carbs are preferential. So your body is going to use up all the carbs first, and then fats are kind of more of a longer term energy source. Protein is, you said, like building blocks of your muscles. That's
protein can also be converted into energy.
Yes. So as far as weight loss, when we talk about weight loss, what we really mean is fat loss.
Yeah, exactly.
So like if you want to lose weight, you don't want to reduce the amount of protein that you're eating, because that's a recipe to lose muscle.
Yeah.
You have to keep your protein high and reduce your fats and carbs. And then just kind of going the opposite direction, you just increase those fats and carbs a little bit to maintain or to put on weight. And fats...
And it's been fashionable over the last, probably 50 years to demonize one macronutrient or another.
Yeah.
So typically it's not typically protein gets a free pass.
Protein might be next.
Protein, yeah. Well, yeah.
It might be
They're going to try to get everybody off of eating meat.
There's that, but there's like protein shakes and stuff can cause, like, if you bombard your body with processed protein, it can cause like kidney problems.
Keyword processed. We're going to come back to that. Yes, you're right. And actually, for a minute there during our bulk, I was going ham on the protein powders. Yeah. And I ended up with some tummy troubles.
Yeah.
So, moderation. All things in moderation, right?
It's the macros. They're a little bit more favorable, but they also kind of treat protein as like this magical thing. Yeah. That's like.
And I'm sure you made up a whole nice list, but like I said, they in the 70s and 80s, actually probably started in the 60s. Actually, I just listened to some stuff. I got some knowledge because I just listened to it. It all started in like 1965-ish, like the whole like low fat craze and all that.
Low fat.
In the late 60s and the early 70s, there became all this information put out into the general public about how fat is causing all these problems with heart disease and so on and so forth. And so they kind of demonize fat, and there's a lot that goes into that. There's kind of a political slant.
Yeah.
But so for a long time, it's when we were kids, especially I grew up in the 80s.
Yeah.
Aging myself, but I grew up in the late 90s. No, but it was like low fat was the thing. Everything was low fat, low fat, low fat. Our dad still is on that. Like he thinks that the low fat peanut butter is the healthier version and stuff.
Even though there's more sugar in it.
Yeah, it's more sugar. And sugar is really the devil. And we're going to get to that later. But and then it became low carb. Well, no, there's, low carb. Carbohydrates, there's different types of carbohydrates.
That's true.
And so then you have to talk about the glycemic index and all that kind of stuff.
I want to say, though, that low carb, low carb was like the next like demonization after that. Like carbs are bad, carbs are the enemy.
Can I give spoilers? Or do we just want to do that for later?
Well,
spoilers. It's processed foods. That's the demon. That's the devil.
That's the next thing that we were heading to. But
spoiler alert. Anyway, go ahead.
The low carb diets were actually much older, and it kind of bothers me when people say that keto is a fad diet because like the ketogenic diet, there's like references to it in like the late 1800s. They called it the Banting diet, I believe.
Yeah. No, it's been around forever.
So the low fat diet is much more recent, and I would refer to that as a fad diet over the low carb diet.
Yeah, that's true.
But like the whole point of this part of the conversation right now is that like there's no one nutrient that's bad for you. There's only 3 nutrients.
Yeah.
And they're all good for you if you know where to get them.
Yeah, exactly.
And eating them in the right ratios, the macronutrient ratios that I've seen sometimes have been kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, especially like ones that are based on like the food pyramid.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah, the food pyramid is silly.
Telepathy, man. It's kind of upside down.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of politics and crap that goes into that, but it's like grain farmer subsidies and shit.
Because like
that
corn
stuff,
and wheat and soy and like
with that and that's
sugar cane.
Yeah, because you do want to get the healthy, the low digesting, high fiber carbohydrates and stuff, but really you probably want to focus more on your proteins and healthy fats. Well,
I would say like in the order of what you should be prioritizing. This is the way that I think of it. Okay, I base every meal this way. I think of my protein. How much protein am I going to eat in a day? How many meals am I going to have in a day? I usually have 2 meals a day as my normal. Sometimes I have 3. But it's like, I know I'm going to go for about 200 grams of protein in a day. If I'm going to eat 2 meals, I'm going to eat 100 grams of protein. So that's 16 ounces of chicken breast. Most people can't eat like that, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I deal much more. I'm much better at dealing with hunger for long periods of time than still being hungry after I'm done eating.
Yeah.
If I have to choose between those two things, if you don't have a problem just eating a little bit and then being done.
And we can talk about and I don't know what's on your list, but we can talk about hunger hormones, ghrelin, and all that kind of stuff too. It's important, but but yes. So focusing on the proteins first.
Protein is first. That's like the most important thing that you should start with. And then green vegetables, which green vegetables are filled with micronutrients and fiber.
Yes.
Those things are very important. Those are what you should prioritize first. And then fats you add in. And after proteins and green vegetables, then you add in your fats. But and then finally carbs are going to be the last that you add in.
Now let me ask you this. Because I mean, typically your source of protein is also your source of fat. So how do you, like those kind of things, those things kind of come concurrently?
If from animal protein, but I mean, there's like lean meats, like fish and chicken, and like the lean ground beef and the lean ground turkey. That's like the 93% or whatever. That's mostly protein.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time I'll go for that, and then like my fat source will be like nuts or avocado or something like that, like a plant fat.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then
healthy sources.
Yeah. And then after that, I'll have like, some fruit or something, or a starchy vegetable like a potato or sweet potato.
And notice as
my carb.
And I think we're probably going to talk about this as well. But all of those are what we would call whole foods.
Natural whole foods.
Natural whole foods. So in other words, if you flip it on, like, okay, this is a bad example. Okay, if you flip it over here and you have a bunch of ingredients that you cannot pronounce. This isn't a whole food. Now, this is zero, Pepsi Zero or whatever. And we can talk about that later. But the closer you can stay to like one single ingredient food, the better. Yeah. So like if it grew out of the ground or if you had to kill it, then those things are probably the best sources for you.
Yes. So the other thing, other than proteins, fats, and carbs, there's also micronutrients, which we mentioned that. Vitamins, minerals, creatine is a micronutrient.
Okay.
All of these things are very important for organ function and overall general health. If your goal is fat loss or to build muscle, even if even if you only care about your looks, if you're just if you're a bodybuilder or you're just trying to get sexy, right?
Yeah.
If that's your only goal.
Which, by the way, even if your primary goal is working out for health, everybody would like to look better.
Yes.
Like there's nobody going, man, I really wish I looked more shitty. Like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I don't think. Maybe I don't know. But
at least in your right mind.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that even if your goal is to look better and health isn't even on your radar, it still is in your best interest to make sure you're getting all your micronutrients and that you're in good health and that your organs are functioning properly and all of this, because if your kidneys and your liver are doing their job the way that they're supposed to, muscle protein synthesis is going to happen more efficiently. Fat loss is going to occur more easily and more efficiently. And you got to get these things into your diet. I take a multivitamin, but multivitamins are maybe not entirely necessary.
I think, I look at it as like filling in the gaps.
Yeah. Like whatever you don't get.
Really, a lot of that stuff is, some people say you're just buying the ingredients for really expensive pee. Because a lot of it just gets flushed out. But I mean, I think some of it is absorbed. And so if you're also eating a balanced diet with fruits and vegetables and things of that nature, then you're just kind of filling in the little gaps. That's how I view it,
Yeah. Mom was taking a multivitamin, and she was also taking a bunch of individual vitamins, and that's what I told her. She was had all kinds of supplements that were she got a multivitamin and vitamin D and vitamin B and all of these, and I'm like, this looks like your pee is really expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but there's And also, really, the thing, too, is if you really want to get good absorption, like we were at the store earlier today, and I was looking for what's more bioavailable.
Yeah.
And that means what your body will more readily absorb.
Yes.
You know? And really, you got to be ready to pay more for that.
Yeah.
But things like vitamin D, like almost everybody is vitamin D deficient. And that can mess up a lot of your mental and physical health.
Yeah.
And so I take a multi, but then I will also take a vitamin D supplement. So,
yeah.
I mean, because there's not enough in the multivitamin.
Right. And creatine has been shown in studies to...
we have guests coming in.
Nah, I'm not going to bother us.
That's fine. They know we're recording. So
creatine has been shown in studies to increase muscle growth. Mm-hmm. It also increases cognitive function.
Yeah.
And it's actually, they have started doing it now where they're giving it to like old people who have dementia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
For their brain function.
Yeah, creatine. We're talking about creatine, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Creatine.
ADHD moment. Because I thought that's what you said, but then I was like, wait, are we still on vitamin D? Anyway. But no, yeah, that when I read that they're giving it to old folks for cognitive retention, but also for maintaining muscle mass. I think it said even if they don't really get much exercise, it still helps them to retain muscle mass.
Yes, it does.
Which is awesome.
It helps the cells to turn over their energy source more quickly. So your cells like take in an energy source and they spit out waste, and it like just basically makes that process more efficient, and your body uses creatine to convert energy over at the cellular level. So it works for all your cells, but particularly your muscle cells is why most people take it.
And
it works
sort
for
of
your
a
brain
meme,
cells.
There's sort of a meme online now that's about how like creatine is basically steroids, which is not. That is a joke. It is a meme. But like you'll see things online where it says, my 3-month creatine transformation, and they show like this tiny little beanpole stick kid, and then the next frame is this big giant ripped dude. It's like, it's not quite that magical.
No, it just gives you what your body is naturally able to do. It gives you just like the maximal benefits of that.
Yeah.
So
now, creatine's good. I would venture to say creatine is good for you.
Creatine is good for you.
Because some people are like I've had conversations with people who are not in the know, who even like they scoff at whey protein. They're like, I don't want to eat all that weird stuff. It's like, it's just whey. It's like curds and whey. It's like, that's a food.
Yeah.
It's not, but anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, people who don't understand what they're talking about, or that they just hear it like kind of a cursory thing, and they don't really understand what it is. They tend to think it's like steroids. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah. It's a micronutrient. It's mostly found in red meat, actually, like steak.
Yep.
It has a lot of creatine in it. So beef is actually good for you. That's another one.
Yeah. That goes back to the low fat. I had a conversation with our dad about this the other day.
Yeah.
But that goes back to the whole low fat diet thing.
Right. It was low fat, and red meat was kind of
and so red
demonized
meat, well, but red meat is a higher fat protein source.
Usually, yeah.
But man, okay, look, on the one hand, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a person who has read some shit and watched some videos, and well, okay, that's not entirely true. My certification has lapsed, but I was a certified personal trainer through the American College of Sports Medicine, so I know a little bit about a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. But the thing of it is, your doctors also, everybody trusts their doctor, and you should. However, on the flip side of that coin, doctors have very little nutrition education in medical school. They might have a class. And how many years ago did your doctor go to school?
Yeah.
So the information might have changed. And so like my doctor, like I had a little borderline high cholesterol, and he's like, well, you should probably cut back on eggs. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I think I need to cut back on the sugar and the donuts and the crap. I think that's what I need to cut back on.
Yeah, the thing about it is that there's a whole new model of like the cholesterol and blood pressure thing now, to where like they're saying that like it's the inflammation of your blood vessels that causes cholesterol blockages, and it's not the presence of cholesterol itself.
Yeah, dietary cholesterol doesn't directly translate to your cholesterol in your body.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing as dietary fat doesn't directly translate to being fat.
Those studies that they did, basically, it was epidemiological data, which means that it was based on surveys. Yeah. So they asked people like what kinds of foods that they ate and what kind of health problems they had. Yeah. And the studies did show that people who ate higher red meat and higher fat, higher saturated fat specifically, it showed that those people were in poor health. They had higher rates of heart disease and cancer. Well, what those studies didn't account for is things like consumption of processed foods,
which is huge,
smoking cigarettes, consumption of alcohol.
Well, there you go.
Or exercise. Yeah. So really all those studies proved is that people who smoke, drink, eat a bunch of crap and like to sit around and not work out, they also like to eat red meat and saturated fat. That's what those studies prove. It doesn't prove that red meat and saturated fat is bad for you.
I had this conversation with our dad the other day at lunch, or brunch or whatever, but because he's on the whole, and salt, we can talk about that too. He has some high blood pressure issues or whatnot. Yeah. And his doctor recommended a low sodium diet. From what I understand, the low sodium and high blood pressure thing is correlative. It's a correlation. It's not necessarily causation. But it goes back to the doctors heard that when they were in medical school 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Yeah. And now they're still that's their go-to thing. Oh, well, you got high blood pressure, better cut back on the salts. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not sure I buy that.
Well,
now, again,
sodium.
Not a doctor.
Sodium, I mean, like the dosage makes the poison, right? Yeah. Anything, if you consume too much water, you will die.
Exactly.
Okay.
Water poisoning.
Yeah. So there is a threshold to the amount of sodium that you can eat and be healthy. Sure. But I don't know that going really low sodium is healthy either. Yeah. It's an electrolyte. You need it for neurological, like certain central nervous system communication and those kinds of things.
When you run like marathons and stuff, a lot of times they'll tell you, the little salt packets you get at McDonald's or whatever? Yeah. They'll tell you to put those in your pocket, and then like in mile 20, you can shoot a salt packet and drink some water. Yeah. Because it's electrolytes. So no, salt isn't inherently bad for you. And the dosage isn't the poison. But what I told Dad, and I was sort of saying it tongue in cheek, but not really. Because he was saying something about his salt intake, and I said, I think my new diet is going to just be like salt and red meat and eggs. And it's like, and that's I'm kind of joking, but kind of not. Yeah. And we should also, at some point in our conversation, we should talk about, because we're just starting our cutting phase, and we're going to talk about bulking and cutting. Yeah. But we can talk about our current nutritional plan and kind of what we're going to do over the next few months. Yeah, so anyway.
Yeah, so...
so we were talking red meat, and I got a sidetrack.
So all of these things have been demonized. Yeah. There's been all kinds of demonization of different foods that are natural whole foods. Yeah. Really what the issue is processed food. Yes. So like processed foods, they're concentrated. It's like you're distilling a nutrient down into a concentrated, purified form, and then ingesting it that way. It's like the difference between like beer and Everclear. Yeah. Right?
I was going to say it's like the coca leaves out of the coke and cocaine. Yeah. It's like people in the Andes Mountains and stuff, they chew coca leaves just to get a little bit of a kind of when you drink coffee or whatever. Yeah, it's like a little bit of a buzz, and then it gives them energy.
And then you concentrate it. Yeah.
But if you concentrate it and distill it down, it's this horrible thing for you.
And it floods your body with this shit. So like I like to use a donut as an example of that. So it's like you have sugar, which is the concentrated. It's the carbohydrate from the sugar cane that is concentrated and purified down into a powder like cocaine. And then you have flour, which is the starch from wheat that's concentrated and purified down, and then they mix those two things together into a dough, and then they drop it into a vat full of concentrated fat. Yeah. So it's just concentrated sugar, concentrated starch, and concentrated fat. And you get this little donut that's like this big, and it's like 600 calories. And you eat it, and you're still hungry, and it's delicious.
And it sends all your brain chemicals all wonky, and you're like, and for about a half an hour, you are on the top of the world, and then you feel like shit.
Then you feel like shit. Yes. Because
by the way, donuts are like a trigger food for me. Like, yeah, I can't. And that's why our nephew, and sidebar, ADHD, our nephew, who is a stick figure, he's so skinny. He's like a Christmas elf. All he eats is sugar. And whenever I have him over to spend the night, I have to make sure I get donuts for the morning, because that's like his go-to breakfast. Like, and it's like a treat at his Anani's house, But I always make sure I make him scrambled eggs too. I give him that protein. I'm like, you can have the donut, but you gotta eat this first. So at least I'm not being a completely evil adult with this child. And I give him like one donut. I don't give him 3 or 4.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we should like hide protein powder in his food. That's still processed.
Intrigued. Well, they make protein donuts. I don't think
they do.
They probably don't taste very good, but
they're not bad to me. But if you don't eat like processed foods for like a long time,
if you're used to Krispy Kreme,
yeah,
I mean,
it's hyper palatable, and these companies that make this processed food, they have scientists that design this food scientifically to make it so fucking delicious that it triggers your brain much in the same way that drugs do. It's designed to be addictive.
And then you're chasing the dragon. Yes. Just like drugs. You got to get that next fix.
It doesn't make you full. It's so much higher in calories. It spikes your insulin, which we could talk a little bit more about insulin. But a spike in insulin essentially spikes ghrelin. When your insulin crashes, your ghrelin increases and tells you that you're hungry.
Ghrelin is the hunger hormone. And by the way, this is a side tangent. Don't apologize. Anyway, but I'm working on more positive self-talk in the new year. That's like my New Year's resolution. So, but ghrelin is the hunger hormone, and what a lot of people don't realize, because I was doing intermittent fasting for a long time, and people are like, I could never do that. I get so hungry by mid-morning, and what you got to understand is ghrelin comes in waves.
Yeah.
So if you get really hungry and then you just wait, it's going to go back down, and you can last a little longer. So if you're interested in intermittent fasting, which might not necessarily be necessary for most people, but if that's something that interests you and you want to just skip breakfast and have your first meal at noon or 1, that's not that hard. You just have to give yourself a couple weeks to acclimate to it. But
breakfast is actually not the most important meal of the day.
No, that was the Kellogg's company came up with that shit.
Yeah, it's marketing. Time-restricted eating is a great way to reduce calories.
A lot of information, a lot of traditional wisdom that people think is like how you're supposed to eat is marketing. Yeah. It really is. It's kind of gross.
Yeah. So basically, you eat this processed crap that has way more calories in it than you would ever find in nature. It spikes your insulin. It spikes your ghrelin. You don't get full when you eat it because it's not enough, like, substantially. There's not enough substance there to fill your stomach, so you're not full, and then you get hungrier later.
And it's very easily digestible. There's no fiber. There's no protein, so your body just goes right through it.
There's no micronutrients. There's no protein. It's just fats and carbs that you're just overloading your body with when you eat these things. And it's designed to be that way. It's designed to make you eat more and more and more of it because companies want your money. That's what they want.
It's supposed to be addictive. That's the thing. Yeah.
And this is like where the obesity epidemic is coming from.
Yep, it's and again, our fine friends in the fat acceptance movement, which, by the way, I'm really not shitting on you. If you're watching this, I care about you. My poor brother, my lovely, wonderful brother here, has had almost 100-pound weight loss journey, and I loved him when he was 300 pounds, and I love him now. Okay, so is that not getting you? We can. Hi, everybody. We can turn that just a little bit. Okay. Sorry. But no, so don't think for a minute that I don't care about you or I don't love you because you're overweight. Quite the opposite. I want to help. I want to help people. I want to.
It's just.
But I'm sorry. I have been unmedicated for a few days now, so I'm all over the place. What were you just talking about?
Food addiction.
Food addiction, yes.
So it is like a drug. It lights up your brain in this way, and with an ADHD person, you tend to chase dopamine hits. You have this dopamine chasing behavior, so you're more prone to food addiction if you have ADHD.
Yep. We were just talking to our parents about this.
And so these processed foods are addictive in the same way that drugs are, and it will cause you to eat in like a ridiculous caloric surplus all the time. It's 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 calories a day. I was consuming that much. I was eating, probably even more than that sometimes.
Think about it.
I bet I busted 10K a few times.
Like, people binge. When people binge eat, what do they binge? Chips, desserts, candies, sugars.
Yeah,
nobody binges on broccoli and chicken.
Yeah.
It just, because that's the stuff that's going to fill you up. It's going to satiate you. It doesn't give you the same dopamine hit. It still tastes good. But but no, that's
hyper palatable.
It's not addictive the way that the processed faux foods are. Faux foods.
Yeah.
patent pending. I just came up with that.
So, I have a little bit of evidence of this.
Yes.
Let's look at some of the slogans.
Yes, please.
I wrote down a few of the slogans of processed foods because
they're saying the quiet part out loud. They're letting you know. They're letting you know their plan. That they want you addicted to their stuff.
These slogans really should be like Surgeon General warnings.
Yeah.
But like, so Lay's, bet you can't eat just one. I think that's an older one. I don't think they still use that one.
Probably not.
But
regardless.
They're saying that if you eat this product, you will not be able to control yourself.
Yeah.
And you'll have to eat shitloads of it.
Yeah, we're going to light your brain up so much that you're going to be addicted to this product.
And like they
imagine if cocaine had advertisements. You know?
Bet you can't snort just one line.
It's amazing.
Oh my God. For real. Similarly, Pringles, once you pop, you can't stop. You can't stop?
You can't stop. I can't stop.
Literally?
I need an intervention.
Think about that.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
It. Once you pop, you can't stop. Dude, that's not how food is supposed to be.
That's addiction. That's addiction.
You're not supposed to be so, like, overwhelmed with how delicious this food is.
Yeah.
That you have to keep eating it until you feel sick.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be like that.
Exactly.
Sprite. Obey your thirst.
You will obey. You will obey.
Obey your thirst, as in, like, if you're thirsty, you need to drink a bunch of sugar.
Yeah.
Instead of water.
Oh, wow, man, that's crazy.
Cheetos. Dangerously cheesy.
Dangerously.
They're telling you that it's dangerous.
That's almost a warning.
Yeah.
It's like, you better be really careful.
But they say it in that voice, like, dangerously cheesy, and it sounds fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're like, it's dangerously cheesy.
Well,
I'm dead serious.
Listen
it's
to me.
Dangerous.
This is dangerous. Be careful.
But it is, because this is where all of these health problems are coming from. Mm-hmm. If you just eat meat and vegetables and fruit and some nuts and just whole natural foods that is grown or murdered.
Yeah.
Sorry, vegans.
It's called the food chain.
That's good for you.
We're part of the food chain.
We're omnivores, and protein, there's a reason why we need to consume so much protein. Mm-hmm. And like, if you are a vegan, like, that's cool, but you're gonna have to like figure out how to get enough protein into your diet.
If people are vegan for moral issues, I completely understand. I get it.
Don't go vegan for your health.
But no, vegan is not a healthy diet.
No.
At all.
No.
Because it's all carbs, there's not enough fats.
Really, the only way to get protein is through processed foods.
As a vegan.
Like, it has to be super concentrated because there's not enough protein in plant foods to...
Like pea proteins and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, like, tofu's not that bad, but it's still, like, concentrated.
And then soy has its own issues with hormones and shit.
Soy, too much soy does have, like, some weird effects.
Yeah.
Soy's not that bad. Like, if you have it every once in a while, it's not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
But
it's all things in moderation, right? Yes, but... Oh, gosh. What was it? Oh, okay. So can we talk a little bit about, like... We're talking about the things that are, the bulk of your diet should be the whole foods, and the whole single ingredient foods, steak and potato.
Yeah.
You can go pick a potato out of the garden and you can go kill a cow and that's your dinner. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's one, and you flip that steak package over and there's one ingredient, steak.
Yeah.
That's the idea, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously we have to live in our modern world. Like we were talking the other day, like, the primal, like, hunter-gatherers really do live the closest to nature, the way the humans and God intended, I guess, right? And I was asked, well, are you going to go live as a hunter-gatherer? And I'm like, well, no. I still have to exist in this world. So I would say the 80-20 rule is pretty good. Like 80% of your diet should be clean, whole, single-ingredient foods.
Yeah.
And then, maybe 20. Now, depending, if you're like super morbidly obese and you're a food addict, maybe don't follow the 80-20 rule at first.
Yeah.
Because that 20%, I even did it over this course of this past 5 months. We just completed our bulking season, and my bulk started out healthy. I was doing about 80-20, and then just the closer I got to Thanksgiving, it became 75 and 25, and then it was 70-30 and then 60-40 and then by Christmas I was just it's all just sugar and shit and so it's a slippery slope.
Yeah. It is because of the dopamine response, and it does become like a compulsive addictive behavior.
And on the flip side of that, when I have stuck to things like I'm going right now as we enter our cutting phase, I'm going back to more of a paleo diet, which is essentially what we're talking about.
This leads right next into the next point I had written down: evolutionary biology and adaptation.
Go.
Yeah. So, paleo diet. Well, explain what that is.
Okay, so the paleo diet, now they have a whole laundry list of foods that are yes and no, and I kind of don't go that strict with it.
Yeah.
But essentially, the Paleolithic, so I've heard it referred to as the caveman diet, right?
Yeah.
It's how we evolved to eat. Okay.
Yeah.
We evolved as omnivores to eat plant and meat, plants and animals. And so the idea is the closer you can stick to the way we evolved to eat, the healthier you're going to be. And I think that's largely true. Although you can get into the nitty gritty about, they have genetically engineered fruits and things like that, a banana today is nothing like a banana 1,000 years ago, whatever.
Which there is something to that, but you can't use that as an argument that like a chicken breast is not any different than candy. Like that argument doesn't hold up.
And even like with modern fruits and things, they're sweeter and they're larger and stuff. They still have all the fiber, which that's why fruit is healthier than candy.
Fiber is kind of the antidote.
The fiber, it's the antidote to the poison, exactly. Yeah. A piece of an orange has the poison, it has the fructose, the sugar, and it also has the antidote, it has the fiber. Because what happens is, essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is my understanding, this is my headcanon. But sugar, if you eat just straight sugar, just the concentrated form, your body goes through it so quickly that it doesn't know how to process it. And so it's like, I'll put it into fat. Just put it into fat. Okay? But if you slow that digestion down with fiber, now your body's like, I can use this for energy, and I'll put, break it down, get it to the muscle tissue and this and that. And so now you have energy for working out and so on and so forth.
Yeah, which is why like orange juice isn't good for you.
No, orange is good. Orange juice bad.
Because they just removed all the fiber.
It's just sugar water. It's no different than a Coke.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially.
Yeah.
It's got more vitamins, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I mean, like the amount of sugar that appears in like an orange or a banana is nowhere near as much as in like a piece of candy or like something processed.
And one of my general rules is that I don't drink my calories.
Yeah.
I typically do all calorie free. This is now granted. I'm not gonna sit here and defend diet soda. It's chemical soup.
Yeah.
But in my humble opinion, 0-calorie chemical soup is healthier than a can full of sugar water.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not gonna.
And so.
It's not going to flood your body with those calories.
And I will say, eventually, I'm probably going to cut back and try, because the sweet taste also can be triggering for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But if you're somebody who's just starting out, maybe you have, you're fighting your own weight issues and so on and so forth, and you drink lots of soda, this might be your stepping stone to get from drinking full calorie regular Cokes to getting off of that. And this could be a transitional strategy for you. And that's fine. I don't think you have to be perfect all the time.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like vices go, you can acknowledge that it's a vice.
Yes.
That it's not something that is going to have any sort of like benefit to your body.
Yeah.
But like there's an emotional component to it, and it is better than drinking a whole bunch of calories. Yeah. It is. But those artificial sweeteners are probably not the best. Yeah. They're artificial. Yeah. It's not food.
I agree. It's processed.
Yeah.
Processed food is the problem. It really is.
Yeah. And I mean, like we were talking about the paleo diet, like that's, essentially the paleo diet is anything that people would eat before the agricultural revolution. So they're against grain and dairy and those kinds of things. You're not supposed to have rice
agriculture, because the idea is evolution, and sorry guys, we believe that's, we were talking about this, like there's a scientific method, and it's, anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that.
Science is pretty reliable.
Because it's self-correcting. Mm-hmm. It is self-correcting. But so when we talk about evolution, sorry. Okay, evolution's a thing. It's a thing. Anyway, so our biology evolved to eat this way, to eat kind of a Paleolithic diet. And evolution is a lot slower. The evolution of the biology is a lot slower than the evolution of our society and our culture.
Yeah.
So when you had agriculture pop up, that allowed a lot of great things. It allowed people to stay in one place. It allowed people to grow cities and for, men to have lots of wives and children and things. But
well, I don't know how we got to polygamy.
Well, that was actually like when you were a landowner. If you had lots of farmland and stuff, and anyway.
I guess
it's a whole thing.
I don't know my history.
I was trying to go for a joke. I don't know if it landed, but anyway, agriculture, like a lot of the wheat and the grains and stuff, it's not really. It's sort of cultivated. It's not really found in nature. You wouldn't gather it when you're hunting and gathering.
Yeah,
I guess, and so that was sort of the start of process when people started growing wheat and things and making breads. Flour. That was the start of processed foods.
Yeah.
Now, bread from 5,000 years ago or whatever, probably way healthier than what's on the supermarket shelves today.
Yeah, there's no way that they purified it.
It didn't come out of a factory with like tons of sugar and stuff. There's something about like the sugar content in Subway sandwich bread. It's like a cake.
If you want to talk about marketing, Subway somehow convinced all of us that it's healthy to eat a whole fucking loaf of bread in one sitting.
Yeah.
Eat fresh? Like it's healthy? Like Jared fucking Fogle?
That's just a lie.
Yeah.
Eat fresh. That's another one.
Add
that to the list.
This is bullshit. But like,
anyway.
A good guideline though. You don't necessarily have to follow the paleo diet, but a good guideline is to try to think of it through like an evolutionary biology lens. Like, how is this going to affect my body and why? If you can kind of walk yourself through that, then you can kind of get a better intuitive handle on what's going to be healthier for you to consume. And I mean, like the healthiest things really are going to be meat and vegetables.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So okay. We got to speed it up a little bit. So yes, evolutionary biology. That if you just think of that as, that's what you were intended to eat. A lion eats meat. A cow eats grass. We eat veggies and meat. Like we're omnivores. That's what we're supposed to eat.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I've never seen a Cheeto tree. Like pick a fun-sized bag of Cheetos out of the tree. I've never had to hunt down and stalk a Twinkie.
I've never gotten cigarettes from a tree either.
That's exactly right. So, but they do. Tobacco is a plant, but it's
processed.
Damn it. So what's next? So that's evolutionary biology. We were going to talk about.
So low-fat diets are a bad idea.
And we kind of already talked.
We did kind of touch on this a little bit.
Yeah.
But going back to that study about ADHD, having healthy fats in your diet will help your executive functioning. They use omega-3 supplements. I would say that getting fatty fish in your diet, like salmon and sardines, it would be a good way to go for that.
Yeah.
Because it's more bioavailable. Yeah. That's more, it's not a supplement. That's an unprocessed natural whole food.
Yeah. So now, with certain fish, I love fish, by the way. It's because it's very high protein and it's pretty low calorie.
Yeah.
So especially when you're trying to lose weight, fish is a great option.
Yeah.
Like tilapia and stuff. But you do have to be cautious because some certain fishes have like they have higher mercury content, so just be aware of that and just moderate.
Yeah, I think the mercury content has to do with whether or not it's a predatory fish. So like tuna, if they're eating lots of other fish, like tunas are high in mercury because it's a predator fish.
Gotcha. Okay. But anyway, so I just wanted to point that out.
But low fat, so doing low fat also has, that has bad effects on your hormones. A lot
when did we start seeing like low T and stuff in men? Like
exactly that coincides directly with like low cholesterol diets because cholesterol is a precursor to testosterone.
Yes.
You need cholesterol to make hormones in your body.
And we know people who shall remain nameless who are both on testosterone replacement therapy and on cholesterol medication.
Right, and that the question that I asked was like, well, when did the testosterone problem start? Did it start like immediately after you started taking the cholesterol medication?
Yeah,
because that's a good question, but
exactly.
I don't think that the results were inconclusive on that one.
Yeah.
Fat is it's a longer term energy source over carbs. So if you eat more fat than carbs, it's good for satiety. You know, it's not going to spike your blood sugar and drop it like very sharply. So like it keeps your insulin levels and your ghrelin levels are much more stable. So it's much easier to be mindful of what you eat.
That's why,
not eat compulsively.
You hear people talk, and I don't know if you listen to the Joe Rogan Experience at all. I used to listen to him all the time. Not so ever since he switched to Spotify, not so much. Sorry, Joe. But he would talk about like going on the keto diet, and how like he's fine. He has steady energy all day long. He doesn't have any spikes and crashes. He's great. He doesn't get really that hungry, you know. And so that's true. Like, and that's kind of where I'm going back on the paleo diet, but with an emphasis on low carb. Like I'm going more keto, and we're going to talk about cutting here in a minute. But
so keto is very, very, very low carb.
Yeah. It's where you essentially want your body to stop looking at the carbs as the primary fuel source. You want your body to start to learn to use the fat as a primary fuel source. Both the fat that you eat, but then also your body is more readily able to use your fat stores for energy.
Yeah, and I think that this kind of goes... So what keto is when you don't have any sugars available for your liver to process and turn into glucose, which is the fuel that your body uses out of carbohydrates, your liver starts to produce ketones, like to make up for the lack of blood sugar, and your body runs off of ketones, and it's a metabolic state called ketosis. This is not the same thing as ketoacidosis. That comes from a non-functional pancreas.
Yeah, and that's not good. No, ketosis is essentially for those of us like myself, you need to explain to us like we're 5, right? Usually your body likes carbs as energy. It's quick and easy energy. If you're strict enough on it, now if you eat any like too much carbs at all, will kick you out of ketosis. Yeah. But if you you're basically training your body to look at the fat as the primary fuel source.
Right, and you have to have the right amount of fats and proteins. In order to do that correctly. So like low carb diets can be a good idea if you do them properly.
And that probably not long term though, right?
Right. So this kind of goes back to the evolutionary biology thing, in my opinion, my expert professional opinion.
This is your headcanon?
My headcanon is that like, cavemen, there would be seasons. Yeah. Right? Where it would get, in winter, it would get cold outside. And you wouldn't be able to find any plant foods. Yeah. So they would have to survive based on just eating meat alone, because that's the only food that they would be able to find for however many months, 2 to 3 months. They wouldn't be able to find any plant food at all. And then when spring comes back around, the vegetables and the plants and the fruits start growing again, and then you eat that way again. So I think that there is something to going in and out of ketosis every once in a while. Probably going into ketosis for 2 to 3 months has a health benefit, which there's science to back that up as well. 2 to 3 months, coincidentally, is about the amount of time that it takes your body to get fat adapted, which is where your body becomes efficient with using fat as fuel. This also will prime your body for fat loss. If you've never gone low carb before, your body will much more quickly tap into your fat stores. Now, your body will adapt to that as well, and it doesn't work quite as well each time you do it, but also having that metabolic flexibility where you could go to this energy system of using primarily fats and then going back to this other system of primarily using carbs. Having that kind of, it helps with your metabolic rate and keeping everything going. So I like to carb cycle. I'll go keto for like 2 or 3 months and then add like starchy vegetables and fruits back in.
That's going to be my plan over the next few months. Should we talk a little bit about if you're like brand new to fitness, you've just been eating the standard American diet, the SAD, standard American diet, the SAD diet, and you're wanting to get into this. What you need to understand is you're going to have to be pretty disciplined for a while. I mean, the discipline is ongoing, but you're going to have to allow your body time to adapt. And you're gonna have cravings and things like that. It's gonna be unpleasant for a minute, probably. Yeah. But the thing, and I think this is where people get it twisted too. Again, going back to our wonderful fat acceptance brothers and sisters, I think they think that like fitness is always terrible. It's like Dieting is like always miserable. You're always hungry. You always hate your life.
Yeah.
Exercising is always painful forever. And I think that's just because they've only gotten to like the first stage of it.
Yeah.
And it sucked and they quit.
Yeah.
And then they waited for a long time. And then they get back into it and then it sucks and then they quit.
Absolutely.
And it's like, you've got to give yourself a chance. So my plan over these next, I'm going to be cutting for about 5 months. And then I'll be going into maintenance after that, maintenance calories. And during that time, for the first, so it's January 1st now. Happy New Year. I am going to be, for January and February, I'm going to be low carb, keto, paleo. Okay. And then during March, I'll probably add carbs, like whole, like potatoes and things like that back in and do that for March. And then after March, then I'll go back, April, May, I'll go back to keto. And so, it's for these first 2 months though, I'm going to have to kind of I'm going to have to be patient with myself. I'm going to have those times where I find another way to occupy my mind because I'm craving donuts and crap. And so I'm going to have to find some way to distract myself. And maybe you can speak to that, how to kind of get through that phase because it does suck.
Yeah. Well,
you gotta be strong. Be strong. You're gonna be okay. You can do this. You can do this. You just gotta be strong.
That's one of the things that I like about fasting, is that like picking a predetermined amount of time, I'm not going to eat from this time to this time, and trying to make that window a little bit longer is good for like training you to deal with hunger. And it's not a bad thing to learn to deal with hunger, especially if you're a binge eater. You need to learn to deal with hunger to address that.
I tell myself, make friends with the hunger.
Yeah. There's also a difference. There's also a difference between hunger and empty stomach. I think that's something that people don't.
I look at it as there's two types of hunger.
Yeah.
There is the hunger where your stomach is on empty and it's kind of making the grumblies, which is a natural process. It's like cleaning out your intestines and stuff. I guess, and it's a little uncomfortable. And you have the ghrelin spiking, and your body's going, "Hey, brain, we really want to eat."
Yeah.
But with that kind of hunger, you can push through it. You can be like, "Okay, I can make it until the ghrelin kind of starts to go down, and I ride that wave. I can keep going and just be fine." And it's like it's temporary. You just remind yourself it's just temporary. This wave of hunger is temporary, and that's once you get in that mindset, and you look at those grumblies in your tummy as like, "Oh, good. Oh, my body's starting to burn fat. Oh, great."
Right. If you're in a caloric deficit, like if you're hungry, like congratulations, it's working.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that's hunger type 1, where you just you have the empty stomach feeling.
Yeah.
And this is all my headcanon, by the way. I didn't read this anywhere. Hunger type 2 is blood sugar crash.
Yes.
When you get hangry, it's because you had something that spiked your blood sugar way up. Fast food, processed food, simple sugars, whatever. Your blood sugar went way up here, and you feel great for about 10 minutes, and then you go, and that blood sugar crash is where you get hangry because you feel like you're about to pass out. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, if I don't get something real quick, I'm going to die. I am going to die if I don't eat right now. That's not a natural state.
Processed food does that too.
That is not a natural state. That is processed food fucking with our evolution.
Yeah.
But if you control your carbs, especially your processed simple sugars and stuff like that, you won't get that. You won't get that hangry feeling as much. So you want to type 1 hunger is good. It's good. Make friends with that. It's like, oh, my tummy's grumbling. Good. The diet's working. But if you're getting hangry and you feel like you're about to die, you did something wrong. You got to address what did you eat earlier that messed up your blood sugar.
Well.
Oh, and by the way, we are not doctors. Please consult your physician, especially if you are pre-diabetic or anything along those lines. Please consult your physician before you do any of this.
Disclaimer.
Yes, disclaimer.
We don't assume any responsibility. It's all your choice. This
program is terrible and should be viewed by no one. What's that? What's the South Park one?
It's something like that, yeah.
We're just two people on the internet. We're just talking.
My plan is similar to your plan. I'm doing something a little bit different.
Okay.
So basically what I did was I started the bulk while I was still on keto. I raised my calories up.
That must have been hard.
It was not at all, but I am an eater.
Yeah.
Well, fat has a lot of calories.
Yeah, that's true. I say that because I'm probably mentioned earlier, but like you try getting excess calories on just like chicken and broccoli.
Yeah.
You will feel like you're about to explode. You can't do it.
You can't.
It's hard. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
But you can gorge all day. You can get thousands upon thousands of calories with Cheetos and donuts and whatever else.
No, it's not hard for me to get into a caloric surplus on keto because I would just raise my nuts and my peanut butter, the natural peanut butter, and oils and butter and those kinds of things. Just eating more of that stuff.
I got
and you can raise your calories pretty easily like that.
Yeah.
So I started the bulk when I was on keto, and then like somewhere in there I added carbs back in. So I'm just basically doing the same diet, which keto is essentially just protein, green vegetables, and fat.
Yeah.
If you want to boil it down, that's what keto is. And then I just add in starchy vegetables and fruits, and that's the diet.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. And maybe rice every once in a while. We're going to disregard what happened with the Christmas candy and Thanksgiving because I just derailed my plan. But in theory...
we probably can have a whole separate episode on all that. I think for next holiday season, we need to come up with a very firm plan on how we are going to address these issues without feeling completely denied. Because I think that's part of it is everything's balanced. You don't want to go through the holidays and never have a sugar cookie. That would be sad. But you don't need the entire container of sugar cookies.
So that's what I just got done with.
Yeah.
So I'm starting the cut now with carbs, and then I'm going to try to get about halfway through the cut, still eating my starchy vegetables and fruits, and then cut those out and go keto again about halfway through the cut.
Okay.
To just see if that can kind of break that plateau a little bit.
Sure.
But I feel like we haven't really adequately defined bulking and cutting.
Oh, okay.
I feel like people
certainly not this episode.
I feel like people kind of have a basic idea of what that is, but...
This lingo comes, I think, primarily out of the bodybuilding community, right? And it's... did you want to take it, or shall I?
Well, the way that bodybuilders did it was probably not fucking healthy at all. Because they would eat 8,000 calories a day to bulk up, and they would get fat.
Which, by the way, they might have been taking some fine Mexican vitamins that... that were illegally brought across the border that might have contributed to their ability to not gain too much fat.
Yeah.
And put on a lot of muscle. Very fast.
Steroids. Steroids. Excuse me. They would eat thousands and thousands of calories on the bulk and then go into a cut and eat 1,000 calories a day and strip it all off and starve themselves.
You're bulking up your muscle mass and then you are cutting your fat.
This is not what we're doing, though.
Not exactly. It's a similar idea.
It's the similar process, but we're doing the sensible version where it's I said, my maintenance calories are around 2,800, so I'm just doing plus and minus 500 calories. So it's I'll go up to 3,300 calories on the bulk, and then now I'm shooting for about 2,400 calories, and I'm gonna back it down a little bit as I go. But it's just it shouldn't be really more than a difference of 1,000 calories between your bulking and your cutting calories.
Now, if you are interested in first of all, it depends on who you are, I suppose. If you are morbidly obese, you probably want to start with cutting calories and cutting, because really...
Honestly, I would say if you're in that situation, you probably are eating a lot of processed foods, and don't even start with counting your calories. Just start trying to get more protein and more vegetables. Just try to get
change the sources of your calories.
Just try to eat more lean, boneless, skinless chicken breast and just broccoli and Brussels and those kinds of things.
One of the best decisions I made over the quarantine, I've always had a rough idea of how to cook. Take food, apply heat. That's cooking, right? But over the quarantine, especially, I made it one of my things to actually learn how to cook, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the best things I ever did. So especially if you're interested in getting healthy, learn how to cook for yourself, because that will make all the difference. You can make really delicious food for a fraction of the calories and everything that you would get at a restaurant.
There's no calories in seasoning.
Yeah.
Most seasonings don't have any calories at all.
Yep. And it's fun. I think it's fun.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it depends on who you are. Some people struggle with it, but cooking for yourself is one of the best things you can do.
Absolutely.
So you get in a caloric surplus. We talked about caloric repartitioning of a muscle building signal. So if you're lifting and you're eating 500 calories or so above maintenance, that's enough to put on muscle, and then you're still lifting and you cut down to 500 calories below maintenance to lose fat and retain that muscle. Now, you might not gain any strength during that time, but you'll retain your gains and you'll lose the fat.
You should still train as though you are trying to get stronger, though. You should still be pushing your strength training as best you can.
Yeah, you should always be trying to get stronger. That's the best thing to do.
Get stronger, eat healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna it's not eat less and move more. Eat healthy and get strong.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So what to do after you cut? This is the other thing that I wanted to touch on is that like so many people, this is how a diet goes for a lot of people. They reduce their calories until they can't fucking take it anymore, and then they just give up and eat whatever they want and then regain the weight. And that's why the statistics on weight loss are so alarming.
95% of people gain all the weight back. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's because you only know half the equation.
Yeah. Reverse dieting. I feel like this is something that nobody talks about.
Yes,
nobody knows about.
I only just started learning about it fairly recently.
Yeah. So the other thing with calorie intake, we talked about, your muscles training your body how to use calories. Actually, how much you're eating will cause a metabolic effect as well. And basically what you can do is incrementally step up how many calories you're eating, and your body will slowly adapt to that. So you can actually speed up your metabolism by eating a little bit more at a time.
Not too much.
Not too much. So the way that I'm going to approach that is, I think I'm going to do like a short reverse diet for about 5 weeks after we get done cutting. And so, 5-6 weeks, something like that.
Okay.
So I'm reducing down to about 500 calories below maintenance. And what I'm going to do is add 100 calories every week until I'm back up to my maintenance calories.
Sure. And now, so what's the science behind that? Why does that increase your metabolism? Why is that? Why is it good?
Basically, your body has... going the other direction, your body will slow down your metabolism when you eat less. Your body will kind of increase all of its processes when it goes, okay, well, like we have these resources, let's kind of kick it back into gear, right? But if there's a rebounding effect. If your metabolism is crashed, which it will be a little bit after you cut, your metabolism will be crashed. But then if you increase very slowly, your body will start to have these resources and start to be able to kind of to get it going again without having that rebound. If you go straight into a bulk right after a cut, you're going to put on fat because you've crashed your metabolism and now you're suddenly adding in a ton of calories and your body is going to just grab it. Right. So slowly, incrementally increasing, your body will respond to the nutrients. Like you have resources that you can use now. So
you're basically teaching your body what to do with it.
Yeah. You're kind of retraining yourself to be able to digest more calories, and then you can pretty much drastically change how you process food in your body. I did this. When I lost the bulk of my weight, I got to a point where I was at a 92-pound weight loss. So I went from 280 to 188. And I kept eating less and less and less, and I didn't really know about the reverse dieting and the bulking and stuff. And I kept eating less and less and less and less and less, trying to lose more weight because my body was just fighting me. I'd been cutting for a year without stopping. So I got to this point where I was eating 1,200 calories a day and I was getting malnourished. I wasn't getting enough nutrients for my body. I was starting to feel sick.
That's not good.
And I was just horribly hungry and I was not losing any weight at all. So my body had just kind of said, all right, these are the new maintenance calories because we don't want to die. Right? And that goes back to evolutionary biology. That's why this exists. This is why, it's to prevent, if you're living as a caveman, it's to prevent you from dying of starvation. And just buy you more time until you can find more food. Well, I got to this point where I was eating 1,200 calories a day and not losing a pound because I completely crashed my metabolism. Well, hold on.
Okay,
I did a reverse diet and it took me probably 3 months, I think. And I had done 100 calories a week every week, all the way up until 3,000 calories, and I didn't gain any weight.
Yeah. And by the way, if you are thinking about trying something like this, just be aware of the fact that there is a difference in how big you are, whether you're a man or a woman. If I were to try it, which I probably will at the end of the cut, I will probably only do maybe 50 calories a week, possibly.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, everybody's different. And you also, and by the way, there's calorie calculators and stuff online, so that can help guide you, like what are your maintenance calories. And it's some trial and error.
That'll give you a rough idea. It might be a little bit different than what the calorie calculator says. That's a good place to start.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, your bulking and cutting calories are going to be like way different than mine.
Yeah, I was bulking at like around about 2,500, which I was only very loosely keeping track.
Yeah.
And I was eating lots of crap, and it got progressively worse. Well, next time I'm going to be much
holidays.
Better. Yeah. But I was keeping loose track, about 2,500, and then now I'm going to what should actually be more my maintenance calories. But I did theoretically put on possibly about 5 pounds of muscle. Mm-hmm. So we're going to see if eating at the former maintenance calories might be enough of a cut to start losing body fat.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's a bit of a trial and error. Like if after about 2 weeks nothing's changed, then I might have to reduce a little bit more.
Yeah, so maybe about 200 calories at a time.
It's a science experiment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good kind of crash course. Hopefully that wasn't like all over the place.
Couple other things. Yeah, I think so. I think we covered all of our bases. Did we talk about the importance of hydration?
I don't think we did.
Water, first of all, every process in your entire body is affected by your hydration levels. It's super, super important. It will help to satiate you. So if you really get super hungry and all that. Also, just the act of having a 0-calorie beverage in your hand. If you have a water bottle or something always on hand, that kind of fulfills that psychological like hand to mouth thing,
right?
So that like if it's a boredom thing or if it's just a habit of a hand to mouth, having a water bottle, having a 0-calorie beverage will help to prevent you from going and reaching for the Twinkies and so on. And so that's hydration in a nutshell. Hydration is so important, and it will help to satiate you and to keep that like habit of just hand to mouth. It'll kind of help quell that a little bit.
Yeah.
What else? What else are we missing?
That was everything I had on the paper.
Okay.
One of the other things that occurred to me earlier was that we were talking about hyper palatable foods and eating foods that are natural, and like I think one of the things that I hear a lot of is like I can't eat healthy because it tastes bad. It doesn't taste good. I want food that tastes good.
Your palate has been altered due to the hyper-processed foods.
That's a big part of it, is that your taste buds have been ruined.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And the other thing is like healthy food doesn't have to taste bad. Like I think that people,
that's why I say learn how to cook.
Yeah, people have this idea that like to eat healthy you have to like boil things. Like I have to like boiled chicken and broccoli. No, you don't have to do that. So you can season your food, and I like to season it with like ethnic flavors. Like I'll do like do like soy sauce, ginger, and sesame oil, and I got like a nice Chinese flavor. Or I got I'll do like I got like some Valentina seasoning in there, and do like maybe some cumin and cayenne pepper and some lime juice, and I got like a nice like kind of Mexican sort of flavor, and like you can apply that to anything. And so like I'll do that with a lot of things, or sometimes I'll just go like try to treat it as its fuel and just do salt and pepper. Yeah,
it depends on what it is, but. Yeah, learning how to cook it really will help with that, and then it's also a little more fun, and you have a little more pride in the fact that hey, I made this. That's kind of cool.
And it's like healthy food can actually really be delicious.
It can, but you also, like anything else, you have to give yourself time to adapt.
Yeah,
because it might suck for a while because you're kind of detoxing off of all the processed foods.
Yeah. And so much of that wanting that flavor is really it is like. It's almost like withdrawals. It's like a dopamine kind of addiction.
But yeah, treat sugar and processed foods with the same care that you would alcohol.
Yeah.
Alcohol, if you're responsible, should be like a couple of drinks a couple nights a week, maybe. Like it shouldn't be an all day, every day type of thing. The same thing with sugar and processed foods. It is as bad for you. Sugar is as bad for you as alcohol. It's terrible for you, which is why we have young kids now with like fatty liver disease and stuff.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, treat sugar with the same. If you wouldn't give your kid a fifth of vodka, then don't give him a bunch of Krispy Kreme donuts. God damn it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And with that, if you like ADHD fitness, subscribe, comment, hit the little bell icon so you never miss a video.
Yeah. Do all
See
the
you next
YouTube
time.
things. We'll see you
YouTube
next time.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah.